Debbie Blakey is the boss of $60 billion super fund Hester. It holds big stakes in publicly listed companies and is one of many large investors holding board directors to account.
When we invest in companies, we seek to engage with them. We see ourselves as active owners.
That's a dramatic power shift from 20 years ago. Now ordinary workers call the shots via industry super funds, and many of those funds take advice on who should sit around board tables from so-called proxy advisors. There are four main players in Australia. They make recommendations to super funds about whether company directors should be re-elected over issues like executive pay, gender diversity and climate change.
Our discussions with companies then go to inform what would be our voting advice that we would provide to our members. Do we think that they should support the re-election of a particular director?
Now proxy advisors like Louise Davidson from the Australian Council of Superannuation Investors are under attack and facing a raft of new regulations. A Treasury paper suggests companies be given access to the advice 5 days prior to the recommendation being sent to shareholders. Super funds would also be required to make their voting records public, including whether the voting actions taken were consistent with the proxy advice.
Dissent in capitalism is a good thing. Criticism is a good thing. And we should be promoting people's entitlement to actually give that feedback.
The director of another proxy advisor, Ownership Matters, says there's questions about who the regulation would serve.
Many business groups, like the Business Council of Australia, the Trade Union for Australian CEOs, and the Australian Institute of Company Directors, the Trade Union for Non-Executive Directors, don't like proxy advisors. And it seems to be that is a constituency that the Treasurer has decided to manage.
But AICD Managing Director Angus Armour says there needs to be regulations around governance advice.
What we're asking for is basically the same level of regulation and standards you would expect of any actor in financial markets.
Lawyer Jeremy Liebler, who acts on behalf of company directors, has been talking to the Treasurer about the need for greater scrutiny of proxy advice.
It's not about shutting down criticism, but it shouldn't be based on an unchecked, unregulated power that is followed blindly.
Company directors have been long complaining about the influence of proxy advisors. In 2017, corporate watchdog ASIC did a review of the sector, but it found no regulation was needed and that shareholders should be free to exercise their right to vote. A spokesman for Treasurer Josh Frydenberg says the proposed regulation follows reforms in the United Kingdom and the United States to strengthen oversight and accountability. Ms Blakey hopes investors will still be able to freely seek advice.
Whether it's managing environmental, social governance risks in the portfolio, whether it's the appointment of directors, these decisions will have a material impact on the future financial outcomes of members.
In recent years, there have been numerous cases where industry super funds have called the shots. When AMP promoted Bo Pahari to the head of AMP Capital, the controversy led to the resignation of Chairman David Murray and Pahari's departure.
Promoting someone to the position of CEO who had been involved in that sexual harassment issue really had concern for us. And the result, of course, of those engagements, not just Hester, but very broadly, was that AMP made some decisions about how they did actually have to make changes to meet community expectations.
Expectations that investors hope they can continue to hold companies to account on behalf of working Australians.